Hey, folks. Hope everybody's doing great out there. This is Mark with our fourth edition of the Good Endeavor short-term rental show. This week, we're going to be talking about the genius of doing more. I actually got this idea from a book I recently read by Erwin McManus, just about the idea of doing more, how we're created to get so much fulfillment when we don't just do the bare minimum and we do more. But we'll be diving into this topic today a little bit more and how that relates to the short-term rental business. So there's lots of ways that we can do more in this business. You know, are we doing more when it comes to fulfilling guest expectations, proactively fulfilling guest expectations, proactively anticipating the needs of our guests? We can do that in the short-term rental space. You don't have to be a hotel with a concierge and all that to be able to do that. We can do it to a certain degree, at least. Are we doing that from a design perspective? Are we doing just enough to get by? Or are we really looking to invest some time and energy and even money into making sure that this design quality is awesome? You know, you don't really want to go to a short-term rental and get what you get at home. You don't really want what you have at home at a hotel. You want something unique and different and something that is experiential, maybe not that calm and tranquil feel. Maybe you want something exotic, maybe not. But are we thinking about that and anticipating the guest needs and using that guest avatar to make our designs really, really different and boutique quality? You know, the age-old adage, treat people the way you want to be treated. How can we take that one step forward? How can we treat them better than they anticipated being treated? The good news is that in this industry, it's kind of been bare bones for a long time. You show up, you get a house, the appliances might work, they might not. You might have enough plates, you might not. So if we're willing to really go through the extra expense of doing this, of making sure there's enough inventory, of making sure the air filters are changed out every single month, of making sure that the pool temperature is warm, of making sure that they have a gift basket, of making sure that they have concierge services, making sure that the milkshake maker is clean and ready to go and not broken. It's great to have all kinds of extra offerings and build up that appetite for the guests. Like, oh man, I cannot wait to get there and use that new coffee maker. And then when they get there and the coffee maker's broke, that makes it worse than not having the coffee maker at all. So I would just say, anticipate the guest needs, make sure that you've built in the processes to do this, and make sure it's great and quality. The great thing about thinking about our business this way, the genius of doing more, is that we actually get way more out of it than the guest does. Just think about how you feel after a good day's work where you did really, really good work and you excelled and you did everything with excellence. You just feel really, really satisfied. Like, I think we were created to create. It's not a mistake that we feel fully satisfied after we put in good work. And that's what this is about. Like, it's not about just doing what might be expected or the bare minimum. It's about doing a little bit extra. And then if we can do a little bit more on top of the little bit extra, man, we're going to make these people's weekend. We're going to make these people's week. These people have saved up all year for a vacation, and we're going to make it great. And we're going to make raving fans out of these folks. That's the genius of doing more. I made a few points at the top of the show. And the first point I made was, how are we thinking about our business? Are we thinking about this as, man, this is just going to make me money. It's going to enrich me. It's going to, this is just a means to an end to get to the next thing, to maybe get a certain amount of properties and sell this business? Or are we really looking to make a big impact, not only on the guest, but also the homeowner as well? Are we looking to bless the guest? Are we looking to bless the homeowner? And by that, I don't mean it in some corny religious type of way. I mean, when you feel like somebody really is being empathetic to your needs and to who you are and to what you've said to them and they've actually listened, that's when you feel like you've really been taken care of. And so how can we do that? And the genius of this is if we do this for the guest and for the homeowner, then we're going to reap so many rewards. In a paradoxical sort of way, it's almost the most selfish thing that you can do is by doing more for other people, because it makes you feel so good and so jazzed about doing your business right. And one of the things that goes hand in hand with this, let's think about our design. Look at all the competitors in your area. So the market these days, in a typical Airbnb market, we're about 20% oversaturated on a per market basis. Look at everything around you. Like in the Smokies, for instance, there's a lot of cabins. There's a lot of tongue and groove walls, and people like that, but there is a boatload of competition in that space. Let's just say you have a tongue and groove house. It's an older house. You're not going to put in drywall. It is a huge risk. But what about putting some accent walls in there? What about putting some wallpaper on that? What about adding some paint? Make it something different. Make it something that stands out. Think about doing more. And the genius of this is, like, if you invest in this design, that furniture, that bedspread that looks good, if you're really, really thoughtful about colors, and it takes time and it takes thought and it takes effort, that's the good thing about this, is that most people don't want to put in. They want to put the rubber stamp on there and be done. But if you take time and effort and maybe a little bit of expense to make it that much better, then the reward side is massive. It's the old 80-20 rule. If you just put in 20% more effort, you'll get 80% more benefit. I know that's not what the rule says, but in this case, that's what I'm trying to explain. On the design side, I want my folks to start thinking about that. That's what we try to do. Another point I try to make is just treat them great. If you're guest communications, or if you have guest communications working for you, it's worth taking the time and effort on the front end of your business to test those folks out, test their personality out. If you find somebody who's empathetic but can yet be firm, like, it's one thing to give somebody facts. You know, people like to deal with facts, but nobody's heart changes and nobody's mind generally changes, generally speaking, some folks do, by just presenting facts. When hearts and minds are changed, it's through empathy. And so some people are really, really good at that. And some people just aren't. And so the fact of the matter is, most folks traveling to any kind of vacation destination and they're driving there, they have saved up for a long time. And this is their vacation. If they get there and the stove is broke and the microwave is broke and there's not enough plates, now granted, things happen. But instead of saying, hey, we've got the timestamp, it worked before you came, like rebuting, just allow your heart to break a little bit and maybe bear the extra expense and make sure that experience is great for them. Be so reactive in a positive and fast way that they're just like, wow, what great service. Yeah, this was broke, but wow, what a great thing. The other point I want to make in that is, it's way more expensive to be reactively paying attention to things like that versus proactively paying attention to things like that. And this is what I mean. Stoves break, microwaves break. It costs extra to have an audit after every cleaning. Yes, it's expensive, but is it more expensive to have somebody come in and that hasn't been checked and it's broken and now you can't get anybody out there and it's a weekend and you got to pay extra and now this guest is totally upset and they give you a negative review and 50 other people read that review and now they're like second guessing themselves? Or, now those things happen, and maybe in another podcast we'll talk about like the best way to handle those types of situations. I actually think that's a great topic. Or is it worth bearing that extra expense up front and making sure and just reiterating, like resell that? This is what we do. We bear the extra expense up front, so we make sure everything mechanically is working for you. We make sure that all the linens and the towels are provided and we have pictures. Maybe do that. And so it's just something to think about. There's always going to be a lower cost vendor. There's always going to be the folks who try to do a little bit more and try to be a concierge type service vendor. But I would just say this, from my point of view, when you do things for folks that they don't expect, when you do things that are positive and an upbeat in a powerful, positive way for them, oh man, the dramatic impact it can make. And just juxtapose that. Just put yourself, and I know I'm reiterating the same point, and I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's on purpose. Put yourself in that position. You show up to the Hampton Inn. You get 2 towels, 2 washcloths, a bed sheets, TV cable works, and that's really about all. You might use the coffee maker. That's it. That's what you expect from the Hampton Inn. You show up at the Ritz-Carlton. Do we think it costs? Yeah, it probably costs a lot more to build a Ritz-Carlton and to provide those services. But man, you leave, generally, if you've received an incredible service, if you've received something that you didn't expect, yeah, you think you're going to get a little nicer room, maybe a little more square footage, maybe a little nicer mattress, maybe the restaurant is nicer, maybe the lobby is nicer. Maybe the concierge is a little bit more at your beck and call. But if that concierge figures out who you are before you come, and they leave a little something for you, or they anticipate a few things for you, or they do a little bit more for you, then you're just blown away and you love it. And so we have an opportunity to create raving fans, or we have an opportunity to really tank our business. And the last thing we want to do is be in the business of exchanging, hey, if you give me a good review, I'm going to give you a massive discount, because that's not good for anybody. That's not good for your brand. I would just kind of compare this topic to, you always hear this metaphor, if you think more about people than you think about yourself, then you'll naturally be happier. You'll naturally have less worries. You'll naturally sleep a little bit better. That's the business we're in. We're in the hospitality business. We're in the business of thinking about and anticipating other people's needs. Not only the guest, but our homeowner. So proactively say, we didn't charge for this, or we had to charge for this. Don't let them see that on their bill and then start questioning. And then it leads down this long, drawn out path of questioning every month and potential turnover. Get out ahead of this, communicate, let them know what you're doing to market, let them know what you're doing to drive costs down for them, let them know what you're doing to drive up bookings, let them know what you're doing to potentially drive up rates. And the things that you're doing to drive up rates are concierge type services, things that make people want to return, things that nobody else are doing. Think about this. It'll make you happier. It'll make you feel more satisfied at the end of the day. And it'll make you have a better business long term and create an incredible brand. So here's my clear action that I want you to take for the week. Take a good hard look at your business, even if you only manage your own property. And if you've never managed a property, think about who's managing yours. If you don't have a property and you need help, that's another story. But think about this. Think about the one thing that you can do this week to be more proactive in your business. What is one thing that you can do to anticipate your guest needs a little bit better? What's the one process that you can put in? What's the one product that you can put in? What's the one thing that you can do this week? And just focus on that one little thing. And if you do this one time let's just say every 2 weeks, because the rule of thumb is most folks aren't going to be doing this. you're going to be doing this. And if you're focused on constant improvement in your business and the guest and the owner experience, you will win at this game. Because trust me, 80% of the companies out there are not doing this. Man, I love this concept. I feel like I could talk about this all day and have conversation with you guys about this all day. It's really hard, but that's what makes it worth it. Sometimes you feel like you can get down maybe dealing with the public, but it's totally worth it. That's what we're called to do. We're called to be hospitable to everybody around us. We're called to be a friend, in my book. And so what better way to be a friend than to anticipate the needs of the folks that you're working for?